Good day everyone, so I'm just going to tell it to you straight. Genshin is at the best spot it has ever been, and unfortunately we are just starting to roll downhill from now on, and the big blame here is on mobile players. Sorry to say it, I'm just going to say it straight. The reason we don't have good combat is because of mobile players. The reason why I think the environmental design in Genshin Impact is going to be sort of toned back in the future is because of mobile players. So let's expand on these reasons in this video, and yes, I don't care if I upset people because it's time we really start facing the truth. So Genshin Impact has got such a rich and awesome combat system, and with Sumeru being released, we finally saw that this combat system reached kind of its peak. Lots of new innovation, it's a breath of fresh air, lots of mixing and matching of elements, all the units being viable. It's been really good. So with such a great combat system and new units that can potentially synergize with Dendro, you'd expect that there would be more innovative combats to accompany this. Well, no, the developers have very clearly confirmed that they are not creating endgame like content such as the Spiral Abyss, where we can limit test our characters and abilities. And even in the latest 3.2 live stream, probably against their will, the voice actors themselves had to pretend and say, oh yeah, I certainly don't want to do the Hypostasis Symphony event at its most difficult level. Oh, luckily we can get all the Primogems at the lowest difficult level. They really try to hammer down this point that, yeah, combat and excessive difficulty causes anxiety. Now, let's just unpack why this might be the case. The majority of people that play on mobile might have sort of realized this, but Genshin is not that easy to play from a combat perspective on mobile. The game's got enemies that take a bit of a while to load in. You've got 3D models to move around. It's counterintuitive. This is also, for instance, by the way, why we've got such a terrible auto-targeting system. It's a handicap to help these useless mobile players. And unfortunately, the reality is the combat system itself can be so deep, but we can't really afford to make it deeper because the skill expression available through console and PC is not the same as what is available on mobile. Now, I'm not discounting the fact that there are going to be some Giga Chad players on mobile that can clear the Spiral Abyss with one pinky finger and blindfolded. Yes, you guys exist. I'm talking not about you, but about 99% of the others player base, the players that typically complain in the survey that things are too difficult. Well, the reason why it's too difficult is because this game doesn't play so well on a mobile platform. And you might say, well, what are you talking about? This game was clearly designed from the ground up to be mobile, but look, we're not stupid. Hoyoverse has got a game that's called Honkai Impact. That game plays beautifully on mobile. I like playing Honkai on mobile, it just really fits, but when I try to play this game, Genshin Impact, on mobile, it's so much more difficult. You might say, oh, well, that's just a skill issue, but the problem is, if someone like myself that is very good on console and PC struggles to play on mobile, I can just imagine how an casual player, not someone that tryhards or goes into depth to study theory crafting, multi-aura reactions and all the good stuff, just a casual 9-year-old little Timmy that sits on his bullet train on the way to school, I can just imagine how much they would struggle with this game, and they represent the majority of players. So from a combat perspective, we cannot push the envelope. This is pretty much the most difficult that Genshin would be. And also, if you look at the events, Genshin has got a very notorious history of rather providing buffs to a player than providing nerfs. They'd rather give excess amounts of buffs in events and so on to help you clear it than rather sort of really putting up a challenge for people that are clearly over leveled. And I think when the game came out, the sort of combat philosophy with world levels and stuff really worked out. So you had a low AR players sort of getting from world level 2 to 3, there's now a spike in difficulty, you level up, get to the next one, now there's another spike of difficulty, and the system worked out well. It was like the progression system was perfect, but the moment you get past AR 50, you only get stronger, the enemies only stay the same level, and this is a problem. The game does not feature dynamic difficulty scaling, and it also does not give us optional additional difficulty without any rewards such that we as non-mobile players can capitalize on it. Instead, what do we get? We get patch note after patch note that says, oh, these enemies are so tough, yeah, let us nerf them for you, because we understand that poor big Dvalin is like such a big meanie to you, poor little mobile player. And this is the reality we have to face. The combat itself is the best it's going to be, precisely because it can't get better. It can't afford to get better without losing that player audience. And that is, unfortunately for me, such a sad reality. And no amount of Zenless, Zone Zero, or other, hardcore player games will convince me to play any of Genshins like other games. If I really want to go hardcore from here on, Valorant, CSGO, Apex, Overwatch 2, for God's sakes, I would much rather just go and play those games. Talking about the environment, I also think that we've reached a kind of a tipping point with the environment's design. So in Sumeru, you've got these beautiful mechanics where I can flick quickly with my mouse, press the T key, zip through the jungle like Spider-Man. It's so awesome. But once again, from a mobile perspective, the amount of verticality and movements and things that you need to do is so tricky. There's a reason why these Sumeru commissions are so basic and bland. It's because if they were any more difficult mechanically, so for instance like bouncing on mushrooms or the touring light show, then mobile players would genuinely struggle and complain about it. And I can perfectly imagine it. Sumeru itself has been one of the best environmental designs. It's pushed the envelope. It's given us so much horizontal, vertical, so much like innovative ways of playing with the environment. And I just feel like, yeah, this is so great, but I can understand why a lot of people feel nauseous that are playing on mobile. A lot of people don't have the reactions to sort of move their camera up and down, never mind left and right, on mobile, and why Sumeru is tricky to play. It is a difficult map to play a 3D modeled character in such a complex terrain, and this is why the desert area makes so much more sense for mobile, because it's flat and open, but it's not too up and down. There's some gradual like points where you can zip around. The desert environment is back to the old Genshin design philosophy and so on, but Sumeru, for me at least, has been fantastic. But they're not going to give us a Sumeru-like environment in the future. I can guarantee it. They might give us, let's say, underwater mechanics for Fontaine, or some lava walking mechanics, or some more boat mechanics, or whatever. But in terms of the sheer complexity of mechanics and movement and environments, they're not going to give it to us. And I think that, to me, is also a big shame. It's also why I think Sumeru has reached the peak of what we can realistically get out for players. So how do we go about fixing all of this? Well, I think the biggest thing here is optionality. So remember Yai Miko and the whole thing about her turrets auto-targeting nearest versus random enemies? My big question to developers still to this day is, why not have both options? Why not have a character menu with character-specific options that someone can go and trigger? This is the baffling thing to me. Genshin Impact is a player versus environment experience. It's not PvP. So in a certain sense, you buy cosmetics and constellations because you want to curate your gaming experience. So hence, why can't we give people the optionality to have harder types of combat, to have altering mechanics that can perhaps be sort of attuned to certain playstyles? For me, the lack of optionality and player agency is just once again shows the incompetence and how out of touch Hoyo is with the audience that, quite frankly, keeps the service running, not the millions of mobile players that are F2P. So sorry to say it. Yeah, guys, I don't know what more to say. So from my perspective, look, Genshin is scoring a lot of own goals. I feel like it's bad for the game. I feel like they're deliberately inhibiting the design choices and parameters just so they can cater to mobile. And I think ultimately the value of the product, the value of Genshin, is only going to decline from here on out. Yes, the cutscenes will get pretty much beautifuler. There'll be some like incremental improvements to the design and the art and whatever, but I do think from a core gameplay perspective, this is it. It's just not going to be as good anymore.